Hello, and welcome to What on Earth, the podcast of the Environmental Investigation Agency, or EIA. On the 1st of February 2021, the military in Myanmar seized power and arrested the leaders of the country. In the 3 years since, Myanmar has effectively seen a return to the violent days when its forests were being devastated by the previous military dictatorship in pursuit of territorial control and hard currency. And despite international sanctions, the current regime still seeks to fund itself via illicit exports of valuable commodities, especially of precious teak, the king of woods which is much sought after for luxury boat building. I'm Paul Newman, EIA Senior Press and Communications Officer, and joining me today is Forests Campaigner Kate Klikis to talk about the ongoing impacts of the coup and efforts to stop the junta from cashing in on valuable commodities. Kate, welcome, and thanks very much for taking the time to share your thoughts with us today.
Hi, Paul.
Now, I appreciate the situation in Myanmar is a really complex one, and we don't want to get into the territory of reducing it too far, but are you able to give us a general idea of what life is like for many people in the country and how it's changed during the past 3 years?
Yes, well, the people of Myanmar, their lives have been turned on their heads. They're facing arrests, torture, deaths, and this is all at the hands of the military junta. The economy has been in free fall. There's been an increase of human trafficking and drug smuggling, as well as fighting by the ethnic armed forces. People are losing their lives at the hands of the junta on a daily basis, being forced to flee their homes and leaving the places that they simply don't want to leave because of the actions of the military.
And in terms of the kind of freedoms people might typically have enjoyed during the time when Myanmar was moving closer towards being if you like, a functioning democracy, I can only assume there's been a massive downturn in that kind of freedom of expression and belief and action.
Absolutely. I mean, activists who, in the world of conservation, their lives are now at risk. They cannot speak out about the issues that are happening in the country. They've gone into hiding because of fear of being arrested, tortured, killed at the hands of the junta. So yes, freedom on a day-to-day basis has been completely taken away from them, and really struggling to make ends meet at the moment because of all of the hardships that are happening within the country.
And I know that before the coup, our forest campaign was quite active on the ground, working with various partners and individuals in the country. Do we know how they? I presume, obviously, first of all, we're not working in the country anymore because that's just not a viable prospect. But how are our people doing there? How are our friends getting by, and are we still in touch with them?
Yes, I mean, yeah, as you say, it's no longer possible for us to be within the country and helping our friends out. So we are trying our best to stay in touch and ensure that, they are staying safe, but also able to continue doing the work that they do to help us and supporting them to ensure that, we are protecting the forests as best we can with the work that we do.
Excellent stuff. Now, I gather as well that obviously one of the things the junta is doing is reverting to the playbook of the previous junta regime, where they're looking to basically asset strip in pursuit of hard currency to fund themselves, because for various reasons the international community isn't doing anything like the business is doing with them now. What's been the broad impact of the coup and that policy on the country's natural resources?
Yeah, I mean, the junta relies heavily on the natural resources of Myanmar. It's a naturally resource-rich country, beyond the timber, with the lush forests that it has. There's also minerals, gemstones, gold, natural gas. I mean, there's been a huge increase in mining activities, which is massively detrimental to the natural environment. It's also damaging for the people who rely on the forests. They're no longer able to, for example, fish in the rivers that were once clean, that is now being impacted by the mining. And this is all because the junta needs the money to top up their coffers to continue to commit the atrocities against their own people.
In some respects, the teak sector was just obviously something we work on very closely. It's become something of a poster child for the regime's attempts to turn prize commodities into the currency it needs. What is probably an obvious question to you, but why teak in particular? What is it about this timber that makes it so desirable?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, it is described as the king of the woods, and there's a good reason for that. It's a highly durable timber. It's got a high oil content. It's weatherproof. It's slip-proof, and this makes it absolutely perfect for the marine industry. They use this timber to produce decking on yachts, super yachts, boats, as well as producing furniture. And the reason why Myanmar teak is so highly sought after is because Myanmar itself holds 50% of the last remaining wild teak forests. And old growth wild teak is prized by the industry because of that old growth. The time it takes in which the tree matures is incredibly important for these inequalities, because competition in the forest, the natural minerals found in the soils intensifies these qualities that are needed for the decking, and that's what makes them so long lasting when they are laid down. And again, it's a timber that is synonymous with the yachting world because of these qualities as well as its appearance. And so it's the upper echelons of society that are asking for this teak, because they know it is simply the best that is out there. And as supplies dwindle, prices go up. And unfortunately, we exist in a world where billionaires are seeking these types of products. They're showing it off. And it just doesn't make sense that, a decking that is only going to last for 20, 30 years, why these people are seeking to destroy the natural environment just so that they can have something nice on a boat. It doesn't add up.
Yeah, is it? I mean, I'm not necessarily kind of speaking in defence of billionaires, but is it that they don't understand the connection between teak and the military regime and its atrocities, or is it that they don't want to know?
I think in some respects, yes. I think it is just because it is a timber that is so ingrained in this industry, in the marine industry. I mean, this timber has been used. It goes back to when the British colonialized Myanmar, and it really elevated its use. And so it's just something that everybody wants to have. But yes, on the other hand, when you're reading news articles and you're seeing that, people are dying on a daily basis at the hands of a regime, which is where this timber is being sourced from, you can't help but think that more needs to be done to address the issue, and by boycotting it and not importing it, not engaging in the trade is just a simple way to address this issue.
Yeah, well, it's not called blood teak for no reason, is it?
Exactly.
If we can take a moment actually and just dig a little bit deeper into the relationship between teak and the military, within Myanmar itself, just how and at what level are they connected?
So they're connected at every level. There is no separation between the military and teak at the moment. So when the junta took control in February 2021, they took control of all government entities, including the Myanmar Timber Enterprise. And this state-owned entity auctions off teak and also controls all of the exports. So if you're a trader who wants to buy teak at the moment, you would be buying teak via an auction that is held by Myanmar Timber Enterprise. So all the funds that are being generated from teak sales are directly going to the junta. It is propping up the regime as we speak. So any teak that comes out of Myanmar will have had to go through the hands of Myanmar Timber Enterprise. And so, private entities that are operating with Myanmar at the moment, they highly corrupt cronies who have paid their way into the position they are in. But it's all connected. There is no way that you can get your hands on this stuff without propping up the regime at the moment.
And what has been the impact on this trade on Myanmar's forests and on those people who either live in them or rely on them for their livelihood?
Well, I mean, aside from the teak trade, the business that is happening, millions of dollars worth of trade at the moment. Aside from propping up the regime to continue what they're doing to their own people, the forests that it's so much more than the trees themselves. These forests provide sanctuary, safety, shelter, food, water for forest dependent people, indigenous people, and also individuals who are fleeing and simply hiding from the regime at the moment. Even activists who have been working on prevalent issues are using the forests at the moment to hide from the regime. And these are biodiverse, rich parts of the world that are so important to everyone. It goes beyond Myanmar. This is a climate issue. This is a biodiversity issue. Like tigers, pangolins, tapirs, they all exist in these forests. And so with this trade that is ongoing, it really is threatening all of these aspects. And so, yes, tradition, knowledge, important for cultures of these people is being lost, and forests that have been cultivated by these people for centuries. Again, it's all being threatened by the junta. And the longer the timber traders and the cronies participate in this trade, the more that people are going to be losing their livelihoods to this.
Well, since the coup 3 years ago, various actors and entities in Myanmar have been hit with trade sanctions by the likes of the European Union and the USA. I'm thinking particularly of individual politicians. I know the MTE itself has been singled out for sanctions. That said, issuing sanctions and then enforcing them are two totally separate things. How effective have sanctions been in this respect? I know EIA played quite a significant part in lobbying for them in the first place. How are they working? Are they working, I suppose, is the real question.
Straight answer, no, they're not working the way we want them to be working. It was a great point. It was a really encouraging success when MTE was sanctioned by the US in April 21 and by the EU in June 2021 also. But like you say, implementation and enforcement are two different things, and we have yet to see any enforcement actions under the banner of sanctions being taken by either the US or the EU. It's something that we feel so strongly about. It's simple, if MTE is sanctioned, no funds should be going to them directly or indirectly, nor should any goods be traded that were once in the possession of MTE. So that means there's essentially a trade ban, because all teak must go through this entity. And so for traders who are saying, that they're buying it from stockpiles that were owned prior to the coup, to be still using that narrative in 2024, I mean, how can there be anything left to be traded?
Yeah, it beggars belief, doesn't it, that there would possibly be a stockpile big enough to keep us running, forever?
Absolutely not. It just simply does not add up. We highlighted this in our Acts of Defiance reports. And so we did two volumes of that, and we named 12 companies in the US that were trading teak from Myanmar after the point at which sanctions were implemented, to really highlight this issue that, calling out on the traders to say that it just simply should not be happening, and why are you still doing this when you know for a fact that you are breaching sanctions and engaging in this trade. And for anyone else who is thinking of doing it, just simply not to engage in it. And we're also seeing an uptick in traders using new tactics, such as trading through other countries, neighboring countries, so that they can amend the origin of the timber on this import certification as a way of bypassing detection and customs. But again, it doesn't matter if you're trading indirectly and the funds are reaching MTE. That is going to be a breach of sanctions, and it simply should not be happening.
Yeah, I guess no matter how much you obscure your trail, the basic issue is still there. Is this what we were doing in our report? Or was it the Croatian connection, where they found teak coming in from all sorts of places that really teak had no business going through, and obviously they're trying to use back doors to get it onto the European market, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a similar sort of issue where traders, again, they're using loopholes, and they're trying to use tactics to continue the trade because it is so lucrative, and they know that they can make a lot of money off of this. And if the penalties aren't harsh enough, then they are willing to take the risk, and that's something that we have consistently seen in enforcement agencies. They need to be doing more to address this trade.
Apart from specific sanctions, are there any other international laws in place to control the trade in teak?
So not international laws specifically, but we have the European Union timber regulation. That was something that EIA worked really hard to support and bring in back in 2013. So that is soon going to be repealed by the EU deforestation regulation. And this goes beyond timber. This new regulation is going to be regulating 7 commodities. So that includes palm oil, soy, cattle, cocoa, coffee, rubber. These are going to be all coming under the banner of this new regulation. And that simply says that it's not possible to import these commodities into the EU or export from the EU if they have been sourced from deforestation practices. Similarly, in the UK, following the exit from the European Union, they enacted the UK timber regulation, essentially copying the EU TR. And for the United States, there's the Lacey Act, which was amended in 2008. It's broadened in its scope, and so that states it's not possible to import timber that's been illegally taken, possessed, transported, or sold. So again, these are regulations that we seek to rely upon when we're monitoring the trade and speaking to law enforcement to ensure that these regulations are being upheld and fully implemented and enforced.
Finally, can you tell us something of EI's work to help stop this trade and to support law enforcement in respect of teak? And obviously, we've been there through the better times and in the last 3 years, the bad, but we can't actually be there boots on the ground any longer. What can we actually do to make the situation better, to make it right?
Yeah, so our work focuses on the traders who are responsible for supporting this continued trade, and that is causing deforestation and supporting the junta with the funds. And in order to do that, we use the regulations I just mentioned, highlighting how the trade is breaching these consistently and how enforcement needs to look at this, raise prosecution cases, bring criminal actions against the traders. We're working with our partners to ensure that not only they're safe, but any information that they give us can help feed into this work, monitoring the trade to hold these traders to account. And all of this is aimed at, really bringing this issue to the attention of the international community, because again, as we discussed, sanctions don't mean anything if they're not fully enforced. And the international community has a responsibility to ensure that Myanmar and its people are not forgotten. And if we can do this as well as protecting the forests, then this is something that is incredibly important for our work.
Okay, thank you very much for that today. It's been great to chat to you, despite the subject matter being somewhat grim. And all our thoughts go out as well to our friends, partners on the ground in Myanmar who aren't in a position to be able to do things like podcasts. So hopefully you'll be able to come back and join us in the future with an optimistic update.
Thanks, Paul.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please watch this space for future episodes and check out our website at aia-international.org to find out more about our work. Thanks for joining us, and wherever you are out there, stay safe.